Guys, welcome back to the last week of Vintage Super League. I'm Eric Froelich. I'm joined by the luckiest man in Magic, Bob Marr.
Yeah. Hey, well, we got to experience the highs and the lows. I mean, I was certainly in a lot of trouble before I ripped that time twister off the top, and then proceeded to go nowhere.
Yeah, I saw in the Skype chat actually. I think my moto was lagging. So our producer posted, the next pairing, and I'm like, wait, what? Like we have a game three.
Yeah.
And then I saw it showed on my screen that you could see it. I'm like, that's impossible. Like that just doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah, for those of you at home, Ifro, I mean, well, to just think, wait, what just happened? Like,
yeah,
I think it probably would have been more likely that Mitgo lagged out on you, and I had just tendrilled your face more than just packing up the cards.
well, that was the thing. I'm like, there's a game three. I mean, I understand Undead. I have 3 cards I can't cast in my hand, and he just cast Time Twister into Ponder, into Brainstorm, Fetch, into draw 11, no, draw 12 off 11 off Necro. So odds of finding an action spell in 24 cards is like decent, I guess. Like
Better than average. But no, I had plenty of action. I just had nothing to get me there. It's one of those times I wish I had basic land in my deck.
Well, if you had action early, like before the Necro, then I was dead because you wouldn't have to cast the Necro. And if you had lands after the Necro, I'm dead because all I had was a Wasteland. Yeah. Yeah. What it's worth, I thought my matchup on Game 3 on the play with 4 Arcane Labs, 2 Sony Silences, and such was decent enough. Flusterstorm, Trap, and a million counters.
Your matchup there is fantastic. I was very lucky to be in a position to win in Game 2. So.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was in good shape. I got a decent start. I'm like, well, as long as I can fade like Time Twister here, pretty much it. And then here comes Time Twister. I'm like, oh god, like okay, well, give me a good hand. Let me be able to cast like an Arcane Lab in a turn or two. And it's just like, nope, there's a defense grid out, and I hit no colored sources and a bunch of cards that I can't cast under defense grid for the rest of the game. I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, this is a bloodbath. Then Necro came down, and then said I won, but I don't really know why.
Yeah, in Game 1, I was so excited when Ancestral resolved until I saw the cards it drew. And then I was merely happy they weren't on top of my deck anymore.
Yeah, my opening hand Game 1 was, I think it was Spell Pierce, Mana Drain, Standstill, 4 lands. It's like pretty I can't remember exactly what my draw steps were, but I know they were good. Oh no, I had a Black Lotus in my opening hand. I drew Monastery Mentor, that's what it was. And I had like Spell Pierce, Mana Drain, Black Lotus, 4 lands, and drew Monastery Mentor. I'm like, or 3 lands and a Mock, so even better. I got a token off at turn 1. And then I got to counter things.
I was actually, the main reason I kept my hand with so many clunky cards in it was because it seemed like the type of hand for me that was set up to do fine in a long game. Like I figured if I Ancestral, I'll hit one of the 6 discard spells. I had 3 lands in my hand already. Like I could actually play a game trying to develop my board and then start to cast. Yeah, but I wasn't expecting turn 1 Mentor. I mean, that just puts me on a clock that I can't handle with that hand.
Yeah.
So many unexpected things in that match.
Yeah, that one had some twists and turns. Yours were more dramatic in the end, although I think I ran pretty good to run away with Game 1. I think, yeah, my deck's in a decent spot. Obviously, I wanted to beat Storm, and my opening hands were close. I don't know if locks to keep, but I don't know. That second game was obviously the unluckiest I think anyone's gotten, and I've played some pretty crazy matches with and against Storm that involved a lot of luck, but no misses on draw 12s. Let's see. It sounds like our players are ready. We have match 5 coming up. That sounds like it's David Ochoa against Randy Buehler. If Webb is able to win, he locks up the 1 seed. He'll get a bye all the way to the finals, and that will send Randy into the scrum, hoping for Stephen Ending to lose to Chris Bakula, or to join the potential 6-way tie. If Randy can win, then me and Webb are tied. We'll have a playoff next week for the 1 seed. Let's get on the match. Ask questions about Thomas. Hey guys, welcome back. This is the 5th match, or technically the 4th match of Week 9 here in Vintage Super League. Everything on the line. David Woboto on the bottom playing stacks. He's 6-2. If he wins, he locks up the 1 seed. He'll get a bye into the finals. The top, Randy Buehler, 3 and 5 on dredge that does not have a Bizarre bag in its opening hand, so he's going to mulligan. If he wins, he locks up being safe. That is what he's playing
Yeah.
for. If he loses, and Kai
I mean-
and Tom at 3 and 6. And our final match of the night, the big one, Chris Pakula against Steve Menendian. If Chris wins, Steve is relegated, goes into the play-in tournament. If Steve wins, we have a 5 or 6 way tie.
Right. So I'm hoping for Randy to get thrown into the scrum, so it's more likely I get to come back. But I'm sure you're. Well, the bridge, it's not a kill yet, right? He still has to empty his hand.
He has to empty his hand. Yeah, there's some chance he can't empty his hand in time. Good point. Randy called Ensnaring Bridge against his deck basically a kill. He doesn't have any way to remove it in game 1. So Webb needs to get, well, he needs a pretty small hand.
I mean, the wasteland here. Oh, wow. I mean, okay, there's a great many things that are going badly for Randy here.
Yeah, this thing is spiraling quick. Game 1, Randy's matchup is great against shops. That is one of the reasons to play dredge in a metagame full of workshops. You expect to crush game 1 and hope they don't have too much hate in game 2. Well, there's a petrified field, so we can get Bizarre back, but it's going to be slow. Webb's going to have time to empty his hand, and that will end the game.
Yeah, that will just be it.
Drawing a bunch of mental missteps, don't really do anything against the stack stack. Yeah, Randy has gone for more Storm Hate. He's got cards like the Leyline of Sanctity in his main deck. You typically will see cards like Ingot Chewer in the main deck. That's one of the ways to potentially answer an Ensnaring Bridge. Randy doesn't have those, so...
I mean, it's not like Ensnaring Bridge is a huge vintage staple. I mean,
True.
You and LSV, after starting to play this version of Stacks deck, has certainly made it a bigger deal.
Yeah. No, it's not the reason to be playing Ingot Chewer necessarily. There's a number of cards that it hits. There's artifacts in basically everyone's deck except for the Dredge Mirror. It's also a decent card with Bridge in that you can cast it for 1 mana, evoke it, and activate some Bridge tokens, get some zombies into play. But yeah. It's just one of the cards that you can have in like a shops metagame, or if you're trying to kill, let's say, a Time Vault, which no one in this league plays anymore because people play null rods. And just a way to disrupt that in a dredge deck without having to worry about messing up your engine.
Mm-hmm.
So Webb is just looking for ways to get his cards into play before these creatures can kill him.
Right. I mean, I assume you sack the Bloodghast to therapy for Abandon Hope. I mean, you just stop searching. You just take the first pick. You don't actually want him to discard anything.
No, I mean, unless there's a card that you can't beat, maybe a card like, oh no, Webb's not playing the Arcbound Ravager version, but that could be something that can kill your bridges.
Fair.
He named, I can't see that small. Golgari Grief. Oh, he's
therapying himself. There we go.
Right, good play.
Yeah, that is a very good play.
That also makes sense if you thought about it. Alright, so, well, Webb's not really looking for lock pieces. They only lock him right now, and that's actually pretty good news for Randy. He's just looking for... His way to win is for Webb to not be able to empty his hand. Webb's way to win is get low on cards, and the bridge will just completely lock him out. Lock pieces are a big negative to trying to empty your hand. He could play Thorn and Revoker.
I think I kind of still like Thorn and Revoker. I mean, it keeps anything goofy from happening with Dread Return.
Yeah, it does. Interestingly, I think that...
If Randy wants a Bizarre, that is, yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
That Randy is playing Dragonlord Kolaghan in this deck instead of Flamekin Zealot, which is interesting because, of course, Dragonlord Kolaghan's not going to attack into an Ensnaring Bridge, but because it doesn't give his team +1/+1, he actually gets a little bit of an edge against these Ensnaring Bridges.
True.
Randy's not going to get very many bridge uses with all these wastelands. He's going to have to use them wisely. So yeah, now he can't cast his flashback spells if he wants to go the Bizarre route. And that just means an extra turn for Webb, which is all he can really ask for when he's trying to empty his hand.
Yeah, I mean, the next turn will let him wasteland the next Bizarre and play another card out of his hand.
Yeah, but if that still means 2 cards in hand, then he's got a chance. Also, Webb has cards in his deck that he actually legitimately can't cast. Cards like Spine of Ishsaw, or potentially a Wormcoil Engine that he just doesn't have the mana to cast. Although, interesting combo, Webb could play his Crucible of Worlds, if he drew something like Spine or Wormcoil Engine, tap Workshop, Wasteland his own Workshop, replay it as a mini Dark Ritual of sorts, and go that route. So, Randy bringing back Icarids. If the Phyrexian Revoker blocks, it will remove the 1 graveyard. Which is probably worth it to get the damage in. Try to go off next turn, I imagine.
I really think Randy's out here. I think it's return the Grave Troll, get the... Oh, no, he needs the 1 mana for... Wow, he has to have, like, the best 6 cards go in his graveyard ever. I mean, if it's something crazy, like a couple of Bridges and Sun Titan, things could at least get interesting.
Well, he can't actually... Oh, you're saying with the Dredge, yeah.
Right, and then he could just tap Petrified Field for mana.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Well, this is awkward with the Icarids now.
Rarely do you see a game with like this many decisions, I guess, with a game of Dredge versus Workshops. But yeah, there are definitely a number of ways to play this, and it's not clear cut. So all the creatures are going to come in. Webb can block. The Revoker will die. That will trigger the Bridge getting exiled. He does get in for 7 damage, which is not insignificant. He ends up playing Undiscovered Paradise. That gets back a Bloodghast. Webb can waste that, potentially, and still leave Randy on having no mana with a Thorn in play if he wants to use Bazaar.
I mean, I think Randy really needs that Bazaar to hit something good.
Well, right now, the Golgari Grave Troll is back in hand, so it is not a lock that he'll even get to Dredge twice right now. He has the Stinkweed, which will Dredge 5. If he gets another Dredge card, then he gets to keep going. But
he missed as the Stinkweed he drew went directly into his hand.
Well,
is that 2 more Narcomoebas on the stack? Yeah.
Alright, so this is a reasonable amount of damage. It's not trivial that Webb won't be able to get down.
It's 4 a turn with those Narcomoebas.
Yeah. I mean, if Webb has to be using his turn to cast things or to use Wasteland, that is less mana in play for him as well to actually be able to empty his hand out. Although, Workshop means that, I guess he can still only cast 1 spell because of his own Thorn. Yeah. So this means another hit for 6 damage. He needs to play 2 cards from his hand, or these Icarids actually put him down to 1. So he's going to play the other Bridge, and he's going to use a Wasteland, I believe. Well, what did Randy hit? So if he wanted to use Dread Returns, it's just not doing him any good. There's no Bridges in the graveyard. Getting a big creature in play is actively bad with ensnaring Bridges. So basically no use there.
Yeah, Dread Return didn't do anything good. I think you still put both Icarids into play and Dredge with the Golgari Grave Troll, hoping to hit something useful.
What does putting the Icarids in play do for you?
You can stack them to the Dread Return. You can play the Undiscovered out of your hand.
Oh,
Dread
and just
Return
hope to hit some bridges. Yeah, makes sense. If he hits like a Sun Titan or some bridges, things look decent for him.
Yeah.
Good chance to win on the spot. This is a cool game.
Trying that second Mistress Factory certainly helped. I mean, it didn't.
So did Webb on an
It's not
earlier
good.
turn?
Oh, go ahead.
It sounded like the chat saying on an earlier turn. I might have just missed it that Webb played a Wasteland from his graveyard instead of from his hand. So if that happened, that's a huge potential error where
Well,
you
Webb
would have
has
one
one
card
card.
missing. Did that actually
Oh,
happen?
yeah, it's the Revoker. Yeah, it did happen. And he let him keep the Bazaar, which surprises me.
Well, no.
And there's the dragon and a bridge, and I think this game is over.
What? Okay. Walk me. Can you give me a reason why? Like, I can't think of any reason why would you let them keep Bazaar?
Why you'd let a Dredge player untap their Bazaar of Baghdad?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of one reason. It doesn't have to necessarily be a good reason. Maybe it's just the right play. I have no idea, but I can't think of anything.
You think VSL will get really awkward if Randy gets relegated?
Well, we'd have a lot of Randy commentary. If Randy does get into the relegation match, it is guaranteed that it will be a 6-way tie. His odds of getting relegated at that point, assuming everything is 50-50, is still extremely low. Although, do we still go with an 8-man tournament? Like, we already have, I think, some guaranteed slots for a play-in given out. You know, between David Williams, Josh Hutter-Layton, some of the people we invited last year. I think Nick Detweiler, and we have some other people on our list that we'd really like to include. But if it was supposed to be an 8-way tournament, we have a 6-way tie.
Hey. 8-man, it's already set. I'm just kidding. I'm just speaking for my own well-being.
No, I mean, I would feel justly that it was unfair if I was in that scrum. Because, yes, it was determined, but...
Oh, I actually don't think it's unfair. I actually think it's great. I mean, if the viewers get to see more Magic, if there's a little more suspense, a little bit more new blood. I mean, obviously, new blood helps. I mean, Webb is 6-2 right now, playing for the 1 seed, and he just came in off the grinder.
Webb is actually 7-1.
Oh,
I just realized that. But yeah, Webb.
Even better.
Webb needs to lose this match to be tied with me in the 7-2 scrum. Yeah, my match against Webb a long while back now was definitely an interesting one where I had the turn 1 Leyline Trinisphere against Storm. Did not win. All right, so after sideboard, well, Randy gets the ingot chewers. Although he was able to beat the turn 1 bridge, that honestly, I mean, Randy said that is just a turn 1 kill against him. All Webb has to do is get his hand down to 1 card, and it's over.
And he didn't draw overly well. I mean, it wasn't.
He didn't draw overly poorly either. I mean, he could have drawn a lot of lock pieces or cards that he legitimately can't cast, like 6 and 7 drop.
Oh, I meant Randy to get past the bridge. Like, I think some of his dredges could have been better. I think. Yeah. I mean, it was just very average, and he worked his way through it.
Yeah, part of the reason why Dredge is so good against stacks is even when they have that trump card, it's not necessarily game. Dredge is it's a very capable deck. So sideboard gets interesting. Webb has 4 copies of Leyline the Void. Can't get much better in your opening hand than that. So Randy's forced to bring in cards like Wismare. Looks like I haven't looked at a sideboard for it, but that looks like some Nature's Claims coming in. So need some ways to deal with these tough cards.
Yeah, it looks like he's bringing in 3 claims and 1 of his 4 Wismares. I'm not entirely sure what the other 3 Wismares are in there against.
Yeah. Well, I guess against decks with Rest in Peace. No, I don't really know. It does seem like the type of card you would want against Leyline of Void, although... I mean, Dredge is an interesting one. You have your base. Like, these are the cards I need to function. And then you get just
Right.
flex slots. Like, these are how many cards I can afford to bring in. And because Randy's already bringing in a bunch of Inkatures, a bunch of Nature's Claims, well, you can't mess with the deck too much or you just don't even have a deck anymore.
Right.
So
I guess
you
the
need more
Wisp are.
Whispers.
Yeah, the Wisp are in there for, like you said,
When Inkatures are bad, I'd say.
when Ingature is bad.
But yeah, you just can't take out that many Dredge cards. Taking out, although it does seem like he has a lot of cards to take out. Cabal Therapy is not good. Mental Misstep, I assume, is not good. Let's see. Webb has looks like 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus. Yeah, you can't really do it. I mean, there's a Pithing Needle too. You can't really be
Still
playing
don't.
Mental Misstep.
I don't know that you can take out the therapies. A lot of times you need to
Yeah,
either
you're right.
get that Ichrid into playing, make a zombie, or
Yep,
Bloodcast to make a zombie.
totally. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not a lock of what you're supposed to sideboard, but at the end of the day, you're looking for Bazaar of Baghdad, and you're looking for some good things.
All right. Well, if turn 1 bridge doesn't do it, let's see what happens now.
Well, he's got a lot of graveyard hate.
I mean, for Shops being the deck you want to play against, boy, this is really rough.
Well, I mean, he's got a Snap Mulligan. Webb's got turn 1 bridge into Crucible Wasteland and Relic. It's not the best hand in the world, but it's solid. Now this is like it has a lot of good cards, but it's definitely disruptible by a decent hand by Randy.
But he's also on the play at least.
Yeah. No, his hand's good. He has a couple cards that he really wants, and you don't even know how many cards Randy's going to get to start with. Like when you have Bazaar of Baghdad, things are pretty good because you can discard the cards that are bad. It'll help you dig to the cards that are good. But you get down to like 5 or 4 cards in your opening hand. Well, you're still going to mulligan to find Bazaar, but right now you can't really be using it to filter in the same way because your discards are so punishing.
Well, now he has Bazaar in 2 Petrified Fields.
Yeah, I mean
He's going to need them.
that hand's just not going to beat Webb's hand. The Relic is just so good against it. Wastelands are faster than Petrified Fields are just not a fast way to be getting Bazaar over and over again.
No.
So Webb has the decision of whether he wants to play Relic turn 1. Doesn't really help him to do so because he can't sacrifice it. So probably just lead on Snaring Bridge. And next turn he can potentially play Relic and leave mana up. Cast another spell if he draws it. So Webb is pretty firmly in the driver's seat here. Alright, so here comes the Snaring Bridge.
Well, and Randy's do nothing hand. I mean, he certainly can't be happy to see that. It's even less likely with this hand he'll be able to put on the pressure to get past that bridge.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a Dredge card either, so he's going to have to hit impressively well, and this Relic and this Wasteland, they're all going to be really backbreaking.
The Relic takes a couple turns to actually be able to get out and activate.
Yeah, assuming he wants to use Wasteland, which you would normally assume is the case, although the last game wasn't. Now, if Webb keeps drawing lands, he can't get enough cards in his hand, or cards out of his hand to make the Ensnaring Bridge do anything, but Relic is going to still do some work. Still figuring out how he wants to sequence this. If he uses Wasteland first, Randy gets to use Bazaar, and he won't be able to use Relic this turn, which could potentially be game winning. I mean, Dredge has definitely the
I think the
ability
play
to win
here
too.
is just to cast Relic, because if Randy doesn't Bazaar in response, he can just play Wasteland and say go.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Randy taps the Bazaar, he can in response Wasteland it and just tap Relic to get rid of the Bazaar.
Right, but if he does that and he doesn't have any mana up to use the Relic, he could just potentially lose. Like if Randy draws a Bazaar, and let's say he found Dredge cards, he's looking at a potential loss. If he plays Relic and does nothing, maybe it's harder to lose next turn, but maybe he's putting himself further behind with another Bazaar activation. Or maybe it might just be the right play because what can Randy really do with Bazaar with a Relic active and in play? So I do think this is not an easy decision.
No, that's a very good point.
Like, there's no play that Webb can make right now that's just outstanding. They're all good. Now, if Randy has cards like Mental Misstep in his deck and can use Bazaar in response here, that would be pretty fantastic if he was able to hit. Mental Misstep is pretty awful in this matchup, and I kind of assume it wouldn't be in there anyway, but I didn't actually get to check during sideboarding. Alright, well, Randy hit some cards that he needs, but he doesn't have colored mana, he doesn't have a Dredge card, and there's a Relic in play. I guess the Wismare is not really functional anymore. It would take up Black Lotus to actually cast, assuming Webb doesn't actually have Urborg in his deck, which I don't think he does. I didn't have it in mind.
I played against somebody with Urborg.
Let's check. Ochoa. Oh, he does have Urborg.
I think Webb does, because I knew my sack lands could tap for black.
Yeah. He has a single Urborg.
So there's nothing too scary going on, given that.
And because there's nothing of note really in the graveyard, Webb can kind of just go ahead here and use the Wasteland. No real fear of anything horrible happening.
There's the red mana.
That is the red mana.
I still think you go back and get the Bazaar, though. I mean, there's a Relic on the board.
Well, I think you can use the Ingot-Chewer to kill the Relic.
And then just stare down the bridge?
Yeah, I actually think that's great, because if you kill the Relic, then next turn you can go get Bazaar, assuming Webb doesn't do too much. You are completely fine with this, because you're fine loading out your entire hand if Webb has Bridge in play. It doesn't matter, because eventually you can just cast a Dread Return and get the Ingot-Chewer back. So as long as the Relic's gone, I mean, you're not facing any clock. You just need that time to get the Bazaar going. Yeah, I think that... Oh, he gets a zombie too. I didn't realize there was a bridge in the graveyard, so maybe a little bit of damage can get in there too. Well, this is exactly what Randy would want. He would want Webb to keep drawing lands. That's best for him.
Non-stop lands with his Crucible.
So if Webb doesn't find any interaction pretty soon, this bridge is just not going to cut it. He does have more Wastelands for Bazaar, so Randy is going to have to hit well. Like, he doesn't have a Dredge card in his graveyard, so he does have to find some hits. But, given time, Randy will just win this game.
Yes.
Field comes down, 2 damage comes in, Randy's got a quick turn. It's a card that can come out of his hand, but certainly doesn't help.
Well, I mean, we're getting there. Every spell he draws that he can cast helps. You can just drop the Ghost Quarter. There's still not a Dredge card yet.
Yeah. I mean, it helps in that regard, but again, you just give the Dredge player too much time, they will beat you. Like if Randy just happens to draw another Bazaar of Baghdad, he's going to get to use this Bazaar, so he's going to see 3 cards and then another card. He gets a lot of looks.
Yeah.
2 more damage will come in. I believe Randy will just replay the Bazaar now. I guess he should probably do that first to see if he. I guess there's no chance he can go off. There's no dredge card, so. Yeah, just hitting a dredge card could potentially be enough. He might, if he's able to draw into a couple dredge cards, he could end up dredging enough cards even without Bazaar of Baghdad to potentially win. But he does need to find one.
Not sure what Randy's contemplating here, but
He's deciding whether there's any reason to use Bazaar to go get Bazaar and play it before combat, or whether it's better to wait. There's no real advantage to waiting, I don't think. Nor does it really do much to do now, although I could. I guess he could. No. He can't hit much.
no, I can't think of anything.
He could want to put the Cabal Therapy in the graveyard to use it for some reason, but that doesn't make sense on this particular board.
Well, Bazaar of Baghdad certainly does a number on the other side of the board here.
It does, but it's pretty risky to not be using this Wasteland right now. If you want to use your land drop on Bazaar of Baghdad, you might die. But yeah, Bazaar's a great draw in general.
I mean,
last turn it would have been fantastic.
By the same claim, I mean, isn't there a chance you might just die if you don't?
Well, the question is whether
I guess there's no
untap with Bazaar is more dangerous than going down to no cards in hand.
And I keep forgetting there's no dredgers in the graveyard yet. He's still got to get started somewhere.
Well, this sphere will actually shut down being able to cast something like Dread Return potentially, although not a lot.
He can just drop a land.
Yeah.
There's the dredger.
Randy can't actually kill anyone with just one Dread Return, though, if he has to get one for Ingature, though. Oh, unless he's able... Well, he could get a bunch of Blood Gas into play. That's a pretty nice thing. Alright, can we do the pop out on Randy's
game? He hit another Golgari Grave Troll, so he'll get to dredge 12. And then he'll get to dredge again on his draw step.
Yes, he will.
So Blood Gas, the bridge. Two bridges. 2 Blood Gasts.
Yeah, Randy just doesn't have to do much here. The Bazaar will not be able to... Well... I guess he may want to cast a Dread Return this turn if he can, also assuming he has 2 Dread Returns in his deck, because Ochoa could potentially just use a Wasteland to kill a Petrified Field or a Mana Confluence, and then Randy would not be able to have 2 mana next turn either. Although with enough Icarids and Blood Gas, that wouldn't really matter. Oh, there's no Narcomoebas. Let's see here. Looks like 2 copies of Bridge.
Yeah, the last dredge didn't hit much. It's just put a couple of Stinkweed Imps in the graveyard.
Yeah, no Dread Returns in there.
So there's no huge rush for him to therapy himself to get that Grave Troll in the graveyard right now.
Right. By playing his land, he gets access to 2 Blood Gas. But that's about it. That's pretty much all that Randy can do this turn. Can't attack because of the ensnaring bridge. And so, yeah, we'll see what Webb's able to come up with.
With no cards in hand, I think I probably would go ahead and stack one of the Bloodghast to therapy my Grave Troll back into the graveyard.
Is there not 2 in there? You're getting 2 Burge tokens.
You know you're going to have to pay 1 for it whenever you do it.
The problem is, if you wanted to upkeep, use your Bazaar, you would have no card to discard. You know, so you would only have 1 card in hand, so it would have to be discarded, and you kind of want the land drop.
Fair.
I'm not sure if it's worth it, but it's definitely interesting.
I was trying to figure. I mean, you're going to want to remove one of the stinkweedums for Icarid also, probably, because your only way out of this is hitting a Dread. Well, I guess you don't have to hit Dread Return. You can. Oh no, you're not taking any more draw steps. You can't hit any more Ingashures. You've got to hit Dread Return. Huh.
Yeah, he could have just used the Cabal Therapy and intentionally missed just to turn a Bloodghast into 2 zombies. That's certainly an option.
It still seems right. It's going to cost you a mana whenever you do it.
What just happened? Webb just passed the turn?
He put a Wasteland into play out of his graveyard and passed the turn, so he can Bazaar if he needs to, but he only has 1 card in hand anyways.
Ooh.
I don't know why he left the Bazaar in play, but...
Alright, so I guess by not playing a spell, Webb is assuming he's going to get to untap next turn, and so he wants to be able to basically look at the next 3 cards with Bazaar of Baghdad to try to find something. If you don't want Revoker in play, then it doesn't matter. Like, if you need to get down to no cards in hand for your bridge, you still have that option whenever you want it. But by not using Wasteland, that means that Randy's going to have access to 2 mana here. He can potentially, if he finds 2 Dread Returns, Ingot Chewer and Dragonlord Kolagon, and that would end the game.
Oh, during the upkeep, he is...
Alright.
Wastelanding the Petrified Field.
Well, Randy can certainly use it. So, Field gets Field back.
Because he has not hit another... Oh, there is a Bazaar in there.
Yeah, it seems likely he'd probably just want mana more anyway. I think that this is the turn you just Ingot Chew.
Yeah, when I was thinking of mana, I was just looking at the Undiscovered Paradise. But... Well, all of the Ingot Chewers are in the graveyard now.
Mm-hmm. So, this Sphere of Resistance plus Ensnaring Bridge is shutting down Randy from just winning right now. If he had 2 mana, he could Dread Return, assuming there's 2 Dread Returns in the graveyard, Ingot Chewer and Dragonlord Kolagon, kill the bridge, and win that way. Oh wait, no, he still can. If he has 2 Dread Returns, he can Ingot Chewer and kill the Sphere, and then Dread Return the other one. So if he has 2 Dread Returns and a Dragonlord Kolagon, he wins.
No, if he Ingot Chewers a Sphere, he still has to Ingot Chewer the bridge.
Oh yeah, sorry. So you need 3 Dread Returns, but he can do it with no mana if he had it.
Yeah, he boarded out one of his Dread Returns, and I think one of them is also in the bottom 11, so he's still just looking at 1 Dread Return right now.
Alright, well...
Which, I mean, he can just sack his 2 Narcomoebas and his Bloodghast that are summoning sick.
Yep. So there's a lot of zombies, so... If he's got another Dread Return in his deck, then he gets to win the game on the following turn. Trying to think what Webb can draw. Relic of Progenitus. He could draw Relic of Progenitus, sack that into Ensnaring Bridge. Relic Progenitus on his own certainly won't stop the board.
Right.
So he needs to stop the board. Ensnaring Bridge on its own won't do it either, just assuming that Randy can cast a Dread Return for another Ingot Chewer. Gets to attack for a ton of damage. So this looks like Randy
is 11 cards in your library an awkward number? I mean, is there a good way to? Oh yeah, I guess you can just draw step 1 and then tap the Bazaar for 2 Stickweedums.
So 5 damage is going to come across. Webb is going to get a draw step. He's going to look at 2 more cards with Bazaar, potentially. And he's going to need something.
Yep.
It's going to have to be impressive. It looks like Randy's just going to beat a Game 1 bridge with no way to kill it. And Game 2 with plenty of sideboard cards, but on a multi-5 against a Relic Progenitus as well. That Barbarian Ring to Ingot Chewer the Relic ended up
Relic.
huge.
Yeah.
Using the Wasteland ended up not really working out. I think this is Webb looking to Relic into Bridge. There's probably other ways to do this that is too complicated for me. Randy's lands are Bazaar and Petrified Field. We're going to put the graveyard
Well,
on top.
there's step 1.
Wow. Oh, boy. Well, this is incredible because he gets to use the Relic now, and then he'll have 2 cards in hand, so he can still use the Bazaar. So he actually gets, 3 looks to find Ensnaring Bridge.
And I assume you play a land out of the graveyard first.
Does it matter?
Is Relic not both players?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Of course, yeah. Yeah, it does matter. Well, this is insane.
Oh, he's just running it now.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't actually change anything. He's going to get 3.
Yeah, it does.
Wait,
You have to discard 3. Even if he hits the bridge there, he's going to look at the 2 cards and feel really bad. Yeah. On top of it, that Relic would have put one of his bridges back in his deck.
What's that?
Oh, no, Rumors of the Game, not Shuffle 'em In. I was thinking Felden's King. Sorry. No, either way.
Yeah, I don't understand. But, well, he didn't hit the bridge, at least on those cards, so here we go. Relic of Progenitus. Relic's going to get sacked. Relic is going to get sacked. Trust me on this one.
Playing up the suspense.
If he hits this is unreal.
I mean, especially because all the Ingot Chewers are gone at that point. Yeah, it would be 3 Nature's Claims and 4 Ingot Chewers gone.
There we go. It's gonna be there, right?
That's my guess. Crushing defeat.
Randy Buehler is gonna stay out of the mess. The mess may not matter. We're gonna find out whether that matters.
Come on, Pakula. I mean, this has to be Pakula's deck after midnight. East Coast time.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken anymore. Pakula's come up with the most creative lines while wide awake. So we've got a big match coming up. There are 3 people currently tied at 3 and 6. We've got Chris Pakula at 3 and 5. We have Steve Menendee at 2 and 6. If Chris is able to win, well, it's clean as can be. We've got 4 people tied at 3 and 6, but Steve is 2 and 7. He will be relegated. We'll have an 8-man tournament, and he will have a 1 out of 8 chance to try to get back in the league. If Steve wins, we have a 5-way tie. That'll send Hall of Famer Bob Mara, Hall of Famer Kai Bude, Tom Martell, Chris Pakula, and Steve Menendian all into a play-in tournament to face maybe David Williams, maybe Josh Utter-Layton, who knows. The last match is a pretty big one.
Yep. Yeah, it's always good to have bonus magic.
All right, guys, stay tuned. We've got our biggest match of the night. For relegation, Steve Menendian, our Season 1 champion, is playing to keep himself with a better chance of staying in the league. Either way, Steve is going to be in that relegation tournament, but having 5 slots open is a lot easier than 1. Stay tuned.